Now, the bandwagon, as they say, was getting heavy. Everyone started to jump on the bandwagon again.
Portland is not in a position to try to come back, and he should just kind of leave that alone.
Stop being satisfied with mediocre performances.
I don't like it. Plain and simple, I really don't like it. An all-star game just shows how much they just kind of continue to placate the players and their lackadaisical efforts on the court.
You really sparked my interest, and I'm sure that of many others. Alistair Albert, thank you very much.
Hello everyone, welcome to Baseline with Alistair and Orain. I am of course Alistair Albert. My co-host unfortunately is not here again today. Orain Buchanan is of course stuck with radio presenting duties. He has work commitments. We need to make sure he continues to, do what he needs to do, be a very good professional guy as he is. But I'm going to continue to take the reins, and we have here with us Coach Rick Turner, who is the Jamaican basketball head coach, Jamaican national basketball team head coach. And I'm really happy to have you on. You're following off a really lovely interview that I had with NBA commentator Peter Vesey. So I'm really happy to have another really good name to the podcast, welcoming you on to the show. So just say hello to the fans and the viewers, if that's all right.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Following Peter Vesey, just one of the major names in NBA basketball is quite a privilege. And to see you wearing that Sonics jersey for me today makes me feel really good, and I appreciate that. So yeah, thanks so much.
We will definitely get into that. So we have a little Gary Payton action going on here. So that was very deliberate, like I told you just before we started. So what I'm gonna do, like I've done with all the guests who have come on to the podcast, I'm gonna do just a quick little introduction for persons who might not know you within the region or anyone who's been watching. So like we said, we introduced you as the Jamaican national basketball team head coach, but also you have a really long history of coaching and just basketball influence and experience throughout your career. So you've been with the team since 1999. Am I correct in saying that?
With the team, I've been with the Jamaican national team since 2019.
2019.
I've been doing camps for kids in Jamaica since 1999.
Okay,
so yeah, it's been a little while, my relationship with the country. But in terms of officially, getting the honor to coach the national team, that was blessed to me in 2019, and we hit the ground running.
Awesome. Okay, so 2019, you've been the coach since then. But before that, of course, this is why I have the SuperSonics jersey. You were the director of scouting for the Seattle SuperSonics, of course, before they moved to Oklahoma City. We're not going to get into that, but Seattle is a really good, a homely place for you. So that's why you said you love to see this jersey. You were also the assistant, then head coach at Bellevue College, was it? And then moving on to the University of Washington, where you coach guys like, big names like Brandon Roy and Nate Robinson, getting to the second round of the NCAA tournament, Continental Basketball Association experience, Chinese basketball experience, and also holding clinics in Jamaica, like you said, Germany, Spain, and Haiti. Did I get all that right?
Yeah, I got to correct you on one thing. I was not the director of scouting for the Sonics. I worked in the front office. I worked with the scouting department, and did other things with the coaching staff while I was there. I wasn't the director of scouting, but otherwise, all good there.
All right, no problem. So we have a little correction that needs to be made on the website, and I probably need to let them know that. But that's okay. You had a really good experience and time and tenure and being around that team. So that's really the main thing. Okay, so what I want to do, so based on all of your experience, like I mentioned, and you've done quite a lot, you've seen quite a lot, been around loads of different players. What I wanted to find out is, of course, as we just try to understand what the team is at the moment, the team structure. and culture. It's a big thing. Jamaica is very rich in culture, very prideful nation, really, happy about their heritage and the music and everything that, everyone knows and is synonymous for Jamaica. But in terms of building this team, what do you kind of what do you have to take into account? I did an episode with my wife, actually, very very coincidentally, in episode 4 of Baseline to Baseline with Alice Oren, where we talk about team culture, building a team, thinking about players coming in from different leagues, different places, players who are naturalized, players who are descendants of Jamaican people, etc. How do you manage, blending all of that in, getting the correct chemistry and making sure your team is as cohesive as it needs to be?
Yeah, it's a huge question. And there's so much to dive into. And I did watch a little bit of your conversation with your wife on the 4th episode. Um, I don't know that it's the sort of thing that you can get out in front of unless you already have a little bit of history with the people you're dealing with, in terms of personnel. I mean, um, you try to create a culture within your team, I think, and given the different personalities, it's going to be different, every single time. And that's part of one of the things that makes coaching so much fun,
Yeah.
is trying to fit those puzzle pieces together and try to understand what makes guys tick individually and then how it works in the entire group. I think to answer the broader sense of your question, when I came on in 2019, the first thing we needed to do was identify, I should say that the program was essentially dormant from 2013 until 2019,
Right, okay.
and hadn't played, lost its ranking within
FIBA rankings.
within the world. So when I came on in 2019, the first thing to do was to try to identify who were the players, who was available to play, who could play, who could get a passport, who needs to know about the program,
Right.
who do we need to know about? So it's building a pool of players and a deep, talented pool of players
Hmm.
from which to draw, because these tournaments and these games happen at various times in various windows throughout the year.
Yes, yes.
And guys are available one window and they won't be available a different window. So
Mhm.
it's important to understand, just what that personnel group looks like. So we try to do that. We try to build that from the beginning. And in doing so, you gotta build a team from within the rules that FIBA gives you.
Yes.
And it's very clear. Their rules are very clear. You have to have been born in the country in order to play on the national team,
Right.
or you have to get your passport before the age of 16.
Yes.
There's really not a lot of wiggle room there. I mean, there's opportunities, excuse me, to make appeals for players, for different situations, but they're really pretty strict. It's
Right. Right.
unlike football where it's not really quite as strict. Um, and I think countries almost are bidding on players to get them to play for them. So
Hmm.
for us, we're a team full of Jamaicans, and sure, there's one or two, or a handful of guys that really spent their childhood in the US or Canada or somewhere abroad,
Hmm.
but they were raised in Jamaican families,
Yes.
and they don't lose that culture. So I think that's kind of what you're talking about when you're talking about mixing cultures. Unlike a club team, like when I was coaching in China,
Hmm.
the Chinese culture is really unique and different. And like your wife mentioned, um, in the conversation that you guys had, you know, the 10% of it, which you can see above the water, is so obvious, but the 90% that's
Hmm.
underneath that iceberg, as a foreigner, you kind of have to experience it. And even then you don't always fully understand it. And you
Yes.
just kind of learn along the way.
Hmm.
It's one of those things you just have to experience. So doing it in China in a very unique culture,
Hmm.
um, kind of opened my eyes to just different things that you have to navigate. I think
For
one of the great things about working with the Jamaican team is, I'm really the only fish out of water. Everyone else, they're all on
hmm
board
Yes.
culturally,
Hmm.
and so committed to doing this for the country
Hmm.
that it makes it really easy. And we're also, I mean, frankly, we're kind of in a little bit of a honeymoon stage in terms of the age of our program.
Right, right.
Um, it's exciting. We've had a little bit of success early on,
Hmm.
and
We'll get to the tournament in a sec. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and so that makes it easier as if we continue down the road that we hope to continue down, and we continue that success and we maintain that success and we build on that success.
Hmm.
I think there's going to be some bumps in the road
Yeah.
that I mean, I anticipate um that that thankfully we don't have to experience right now because it is so fresh and new to everybody.
Yes, yes, for sure. And yeah, I think, it's as it is in business or any other circumstance where you're kind of building any sort of team. When you're talking business, you're speaking within sports, you're speaking about any team setting, like you say, being able to get, people to understand, their thrust and their aim and their objectives are. For what everyone is trying to achieve is one of the biggest things, and that's what, of course, head coaching is for, trying to get everyone on that same page, whether it be not just the players, but the equipment guys, the people who run the team and everything. We all need to be pulling into the same direction, basically. And, the question kind of really arose, yes, because of the conversation that I had with my wife. But when you think about inclusivity and biases and different things, I know that's a heavy conversation that doesn't really touch the team itself. But when you think about trying to bring in consistency and team chemistry, which is a big thing for sports, you want to make sure you have the right personalities in, not just because you're trying to acquire skill. Skill is one thing. One of the reasons why I say that, when you think about the Golden State Warriors, I know they have a little bit of an issue going right now with, talents and injuries and all that sort of thing. But one of the things that Joe Lacob and the executives say is they really do prioritize team chemistry, because that is what will bring everyone together. So the coach needs to be immersed in, what the guys are doing, the culture and everything, to kind of really steer that ship in the right direction. And I think that's what you're trying to say, and that's what you're trying to build. It's still a honeymoon period, like you're saying, but as guys come on, the tournament is going on, guys are getting reps with each other, familiar, that's where the success comes in, because everyone's starting to understand what you want as a head coach and what everyone is, of course, trying to move towards. So yeah, that's a really really lovely conversation there. And yes, there's just understanding the dynamics. So you say there's people who don't or were not born in the country, they need to have a passport before they're 16, you're saying, not after. It's
No,
before.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So right.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, the rule in the last month or so was changed from age
Mhm.
16 to age 18, but it doesn't
Okay.
really
Doesn't
really
really affect
affect
you guys.
the
No, no.
spirit of the rule. But
Okay.
but yeah, so I mean, the current rule is that you have to have been born in the country
Right.
or you have to have achieved a passport before the age of 18.
All right, cool. Sounds
But
sounds
yeah,
good.
you're right about building team culture though, because over the course of time that I've been working on this, I also oversee our 3x3 program,
Okay.
and I am inundated
Hmm.
with DMs and emails and phone calls and WhatsApp texts
Hmm.
from people that want to be involved in the program. And
Right.
I've over, the 5 years or so have interacted with a lot of players. And, some of them, from a team culture standpoint, I'm not talking about from a Jamaican culture standpoint,
Team. Yeah.
but from a team culture standpoint, have weeded themselves out,
Because.
because because they've exhibited a quality that I don't think
Suitable.
going to be successful
Hmm.
for what we need, for
Yes.
one reason or another. And that's part of doing it. You don't, that's what I was getting back to earlier about you don't really know until you know.
True. True.
Um,
Hmm.
so you've got to just trust sometimes, when you're bringing players on that they're going to fit in what you do.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they end up weeding themselves out.
Yeah, and as one of the most exciting teams in the region at this moment, another reason why I really wanted to start off with you as a national team on the podcast, as we start to talk to other islands. Of course, I'm from St. Lucia. I want to talk to, the guys from the St. Lucia basketball team and everything, and try to understand how they go about, team development and team construction, and that importance of team chemistry and not sacrificing what a coach's direction for a team is just because for the sake of skill. You want to make sure you have the right characters, right discipline, and people who are going to push in the same direction. So, being able to understand what you guys do, not necessarily that I'm trying to steal any nuggets of information from you, but just understanding, how important it is to build a team in the right way at the top level, and then everything then filters down. So that's kind of what I wanted to get to with that. And you explained that really well. So thanks for that. What I'm gonna
Yeah,
do,
just let me piggyback on what you said though, because
yeah.
I do think it's an interesting conversation.
Mhm.
Um, you can't just build your team around, the best culture though,
Mm.
because you do have to have guys who can play. You've
Of
got to
course, of
have
course. You
really
have to
good
put the points
players,
in the basket.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes really good players aren't a great fit within
Hmm.
your team, and so then it becomes up to you as a coach or coaching staff to
Yeah.
try to find out how to integrate those guys in a way where they start rowing in the same direction, or you can utilize their skills in a way that uh, don't that highlight what they bring to you. So it's sort of a little bit of this pie in the sky thing of like we just got to find the best guys we can that are going to get along,
Hmm.
and you got to get along,
Yeah.
but you also got to win,
For
and
sure.
so
For sure.
you need some killers on your team too.
It's a balancing act. Balancing act. I'm
It
very,
really is. That's what
very,
makes it
yeah.
fun though, man, right?
Yeah, 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 definitely. You have to balance it out and being able to get the right guys. Yeah, like you say, if you can't put the ball in the basket, it makes no sense. Of course, you want good character guys for everything, but you definitely need the talent as well. This really seeps really lovely into the next question where we just speak about the talent pool in Jamaica at the moment. There seems to be a lot of interest in Jamaican basketball at the moment. There's a lot of headlines and different things going on, and I know we can't speak about certain players because there's those who are not confirmed. We can't really go into their situations too much. But when you have a guy like Norman Powell who's confirmed, he definitely wants to play for the team. Of course, he can't do it in these tournaments because of the windows. It clashes with the NBA season. But when you have guys like him and some of the other names that have been mentioned, what do you hope and expect with guys coming from different pro leagues all across the world? What do you hope that they could bring to the team? Is it a matter of just, okay, so we speak about skill, but do you think a lot of the coaching experience and what they've experienced can be brought into the team? Are you very not restricted, but you kind of have your philosophy of what coaching is, or do you take a lot of what they bring and their experiences? Norman Powell is an NBA champion. There's things that you could probably bring from his training into what you do as well. So how do you think that talent pool has widened for you guys because of all of the interest in Jamaica basketball at the moment?
Well, well, my own personal philosophy, I guess, if you want to call it philosophy, or my own personal, I guess, management style, is
Hmm.
I want it to be collaborative.
Right.
I don't think I have all the answers.
Hmm.
I've been doing it a long time and I've seen a lot.
Hmm.
And I think, my experience it speaks for itself, and is something that is crucial to our success. But I also think that all of our players bring certain unique experiences, and I'm
Hmm.
always open to hearing what they have to say. And I think Norm is a great example
Hmm.
of a guy. I've never won an NBA championship, and there's a lot of really great basketball players who have never done that.
Yeah.
And that's a unique experience that he brings along with his tremendous talent and great leadership skills and everything. So, it really was kind of a collaborative effort for us in our training in Boca Raton leading up to our tournament in Mexico.
Right.
And there's also learning curves of learning each other and trying to put players in the best situations to be successful. The tournament we played, the pre-qualifying tournament with Norm in Mexico, we were really trying to figure out how we can utilize him in the best way possible.
Right.
Well, then you move on to a tournament at the end of, or 2 games in Puerto Rico at the end of November without him,
Yes.
and we have to win in a different way.
Continue. Yeah.
So you can't just take what we did in August and then say we're going to do the same thing in November, and especially when you have a dominant force like Kofi Coburn. How do you use him? And so that's part of putting the puzzle together that I think it's important to be getting input from various voices, but at the end of the day, feeling good about the decision you make and then go in that direction.
Awesome. And that ties in really well with that initial conversation that we had about, team structure and being able to find that consistency. Because when you have someone who's a 20 plus point per game scorer in the NBA leave your international team, that's a big, big pair of shoes to fill. But, still being able to find guys who could understand what it was to play with him, but still be able to now maximize their talents and their skills and then become the focal point of that team like Kofi has been doing. He's been playing amazing, by the way, but we're going to get into that shortly. It is a great opportunity for him and others to step into the spotlight and show what they can do, learning from their experience from Norm and other players that it might be, and then being able to take the team forward. So that consistency continues because you have a guy who could step up and do what needs to be done in the absence of someone like Norm Powell. So as you mentioned, Kofi, I want to definitely go into those recent qualifying games that you guys played. 2 games against Puerto Rico, which were outstanding to see how, the results played out. You guys are 2-0, which is awesome, and second in Group B at the moment, just behind Canada, the Bahamas and Puerto Rico as well in your group. How, in these 2 games that you played so far, what can you see from the team in terms of development? What has been good? What has been bad? What do you think that you need to work on? I could talk about the stats and everything and what I noticed in the moment in a moment. So I could see from game 1 it was a very defensive game, and in game 2, you guys shout lights out from free. So what is it that you've seen in these 2 games so far that leads you on to thinking that your trajectory will be strong with the output that they were able to put in?
I think the positive thing that jumps out to me when I think about the 2 games in Puerto Rico and the success that we had there was we were really together. We really played a focused brand of basketball. We had 12 guys and a coaching staff all on the same page, kind of, to use a cliche, pulling in the same direction. I think, where our limitations is just our lack of time together and building a continuity structurally that really only time can give you.
Yes.
We had 3 days together ahead of those 2 games. We brought in 6 new players, I think, from our roster in August.
Right. Wow.
So trying to find, I think we're disjointed offensively. I think we had a really good game plan defensively. I think our effort on the defensive end was really good. I was really excited about the effort we put in on the defensive end and how we had a specific game plan, and we executed that.
Yes.
Offensively, we're a work in progress, and we're doing the best we can in what we have given to us.
Yes.
We're trying to keep things simple. I get run over with suggestions about what we should be doing.
Mhm.
You ought to run this play. You ought to do it this way. You ought to, and it just I just fall back on, I think keeping it simple is the best for us
At
currently
the moment, yeah.
until we can start stacking opportunities on top of each other to play together and build a continuity
Mhm.
and find the things that really work. If we can simplify our offense and get it in the hands of the people that can put the ball in the basket,
Mhm.
we'll ultimately be okay. And like you mentioned, we shot it so well in that second game that
Yes.
that covers up a lot of mistakes.
It does. It does. Yeah, I'm just gonna go for some simple stats here. Like Kofi in that first game, he went crazy. You guys had like loads of points. I think it was something like 54 points in the paint. Kofi himself going for 26 and 15. It was 12 of 14 from the field. It was an amazing, outing for him in that first game, and not necessarily falling off too much from that in the second game, 15 and 12. And still shooting a really good percentage. And of course, the rest of the guys who stepped up, Romain Thomas, Kenton Facey, Chase Odige, forgive me if I'm pronouncing the names incorrectly, and Tyran de Latibaudiere, I think,
Yeah, that's pretty close. I
pretty
never
close.
say it right, so I say it differently every time.
French influence, and I should be able to pick up on
Yeah.
that because I am French, but yeah, I haven't it hasn't rolled off the tongue just yet. But no, the guys have played really well, and yeah, what these stats, the box scores had showed me, I wasn't able to watch the games live when they happened. I watched some of the highlights and everything. What it means, and like you say, there's still, you're still building this consistency and comfort with the roster and everything. But what it showed was that you guys are a very versatile team with this the roster as is. You're able to play a very defensive game and also switch it up and shoot from the outside and mix it up where that needs to go. What really surprised me though in game two was I think you guys had a 20-point lead in the first half. And then, Puerto Rico kind of cut it down to three. So the defensive rotation and execution kind of, maybe hurt you guys a little bit in game two. But of course, you were able to close it out and everything else. So, what do you see on the defensive end specifically that you guys could do to prevent that? Because even in game two as well, Puerto Rico actually shot it really well from the field and from outside, shooting 12 of 28 from three, and close to 50%, 45% from the field. What do you see defensively that you guys need to do to probably get a little sharper on that? And I know you say it's all because you need more reps together and understand that, but are there any simple things that you guys could do to help with the defensive efforts?
Well, I think our emphasis throughout the tournament in Mexico and the two games in Puerto Rico, so I would just say the last five games,
Hmm.
has really been to defend the 3-point shot. It's
Right.
a game changer.
Hmm.
So,
Good point. Yep.
we find, if memory serves, I think the first game against Puerto Rico, um, I don't know if I think the first 9 threes they took were essentially kind of uncontested, really,
Right.
which wasn't something that we had talked about.
Not what you
And
practice, I'm
so
sure.
we talked about it. We went in at halftime and we talked about it and recommitted to it.
Hmm.
And we came out and went on a 16-0 run to start the second half.
Hmm. Hmm.
In the second game, they did a really good job in their we were defending their ball screens in a certain way,
Hmm.
and they kind of figured that out a little bit. And their guy Thompson
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
went off for a
Yeah.
stretch.
Hmm.
Um, and then we made an adjustment there and we were able to hang on. So, we have really good defensive players
Yes.
on our
Yes.
team. Really, really good. I mean, one guy you didn't mention was Drew Thelwell, who also played
Yes,
really well in Puerto
he played well
Rico.
as well. Yeah.
But but Chase Adige is an elite
Mhm.
international defender.
Okay.
Romaro Gill is an elite international defender. Um, Laddie is long and unique. Kenton is a great defender. I mean, we that's a part of our team that we have a lot of confidence in. Um, but we're not going to be perfect, and we just need to clean up the times when we lose sight of something, or we can make an adjustment on a ball screen, or one guy is getting off, and we can identify that. Um, so I feel good there. I mean, really, I go back to our problems are finding a continuity offensively. I think.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, that makes sense as well. But yeah, I think you guys have started off really well. The next game I think is on the 26th of February in against the Bahamas in Kingston, which I believe is the first game after Hurricane Melissa. I know the country's going to really be pulling for you guys, and wanting to see a really great effort coming from the team there as well after such a really good start. But yeah, I think like you say, just being able to continue with defense, like is always been said, and I think you as a coach would probably preach that every day in practice. It's effort. You definitely want to be able to have the continuity and know guys know where they need to be, whether it be a 2-3 zone or man to man or box and one, whatever it might be. But it's all about effort and trying to get back. If you make a mistake, getting back in transition and doing what you need to do to try to just be a pest as much as possible. Effort is always the thing that is preached where defense is concerned. You could have a really great offensive night, but you need to get back on the other end of the court. And as these guys continue to play, the international basketball against other teams, like when they start to face Canada, Canada is a really, really good team. Internationally, of course, they don't have all of their NBA players in at the moment, I would assume. But it's a matter of putting out that effort and showing that the Jamaica JamRockers, are here and they're gonna be, gonna be a problem. Once you play us, you gotta have that energy and be ready for that. All right. So what I'll do here, we'll stop here on this first little segment. This is a really good conversation where we speak about team structure, chemistry, consistency, that cohesion. What you need for that team to be good. That talent pool, and a little bit of the games that you recently played in this first FIBA qualifiers so far for World Cup 2027 coming up. Next year. You guys getting prepared for that. So what I'm gonna do here, we're gonna stop for this first segment and come back and just wrap up this interview. Just a couple more questions for you that I think you're gonna enjoy as well. But listeners, stay here. Baseline to baseline with Alistair and Orain. Coach Rick Turner here, Jamaica Nationals basketball team head coach, and we're gonna be right with you shortly. Hello and welcome back to segment 2 of Baseline to Baseline with Alistair and Orain. We have our special guest here, Coach Rick Turner of the Jamaican national basketball team. Talking about the team. Telling us a little bit about what he's not endured. Endured was not the right word I was thinking of there, but what he's gone through so far since being the coach of the team officially since 2019. The World Cup qualifiers that have been played so far, the 2 games, outstanding games, historic wins for Jamaica. 2-0 so far against Puerto Rico and their upcoming match against the Bahamas. Coach, thank you again for spending some time with us, and really lovely to have you here just talking hoops. So one of the things you said in the last segment, which was really interesting, was the 3-point shot. Being able to make the 3. You guys had a really outstanding performance from 3 in that last game. What was it? 13 of 27, 48% from 3. That's an outstanding performance usually for any team playing in this day and age. And when you speak about this day and age, when you think about like the NBA and of course your experience and watching the games as an executive for the Seattle SuperSonics, the 3-point game is it now. This is what all teams are trying to do. The copy and paste of what it has been since Steph Curry and Klay Thompson came together and became the Splash Brothers has been the thing. Do you see the influence of what the NBA is doing affecting the international game much? Are you seeing more teams actively trying to shoot the three ball more? Or is it a matter of, as maybe it's just personnel, if you have guys who can shoot, you do it, but or are you still seeing guys trying teams trying to dominate with size or anything? What do you notice has there been any change in the international game? Have you seen this evolution from inside to out, just as it has been in the NBA?
Yeah, interesting question. I remember when I look back on thinking about international basketball when I wasn't involved in it,
Hmm.
I remember sort of at least thinking at the time that the international players were so much better shooters
Right.
than US players. And that's probably still true.
Mm.
The NBA has turned into just volume shooting
Mm.
threes.
Hmm.
And I think to a point to where an old guy like me, it's not as enjoyable to watch.
Yes. Yes.
But that's what it is now. So this isn't me complaining about
It
the
is what
kids standing on my lawn. It's what it is.
hmm.
Um, it's just a different thing than it used to be.
Hmm.
I don't think I kind of see the international game almost like to me what the NBA was 20 years ago,
Yes.
where you can have a back to the basket player that is impactful
Hmm.
on your team. You can play with a physicality um, that I don't think you can play with currently in the NBA,
Hmm.
except for maybe during playoff time.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a really fun brand of basketball,
Hmm.
and um, I just think it's the talent around the world is so much better now, because you can see it because it's trickled down to the NBA.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's kind of made everything so much better wherever you are, whether
Yes.
it be in Europe or Asia or Africa.
Hmm.
And I mean, Africa is exploding right now with
Hmm.
basketball.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, I mean, the 3-point shot has changed the NBA for sure. Um, but I don't think the change is as dramatic in FIBA basketball.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, and I think
I think it's influenced it, but I just don't think it's as dramatic.
and I think that's probably because of the personnel on the teams. Like when someone like Steph Curry potentially, well, not potentially, that it has to come at some point when he retires. On you have guys who are probably a little more, because one of the and I don't really want to speak on the USA too much because we're focusing on Jamaica basketball, but of course they have a heavy influence in what's going on. They've been the gold medal winners for so long and everything, so they tend to influence what's happening as well. But when you have guys, one of the things that when I was growing up watching international basketball, one of the things that was always the standout for the Americans was their athleticism. It was always about their athleticism, how much they could get to the rim. You have Vince Carter jumping over Frederick Weiss in France and that sort of stuff. It was all about, what they could do with the ball, getting to the rim and everything. But now when you have someone like Steph, we saw how amazing he was in the last Olympics, shooting, France out of the gym basically and everything. You have guys like Kevin Durant who could shoot it from everywhere. But it is really interesting because when you get to other teams like like the Spains and the Lithuanias and Latvia and all of that, yes, you have Luka Doncic, yes, you have those sort of guys, but you still have to contend with the Giannis's, the Jokic's, and the big guys of the international game. And I think you're right. I think international basketball is a lot more closer to about 20 years ago than it is with the NBA. And I think for me, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. So I very much am similar to you when it's
Mhm.
like I prefer that style of basketball a lot more. Everyone just shooting threes it doesn't do it for me. It's great to see how the skill has improved with shooting and guys could shoot from half court like nothing. But you still want to be able to see set plays. You still want to see be able to guys use their pivot foot and drop step and get to back to the basket and shoot a proper post up layup and everything. So we're losing a bit of that with the NBA game, but it's nice to see that the international game, it feels like basketball gets refreshed every time the cycle comes along, when it's whether it's World Cup or Olympic basketball, where you see, different styles of play coming together. And it's not just being, dominated by three-point shooting in the NBA as much as it has. So yeah, I'm very much on the same level there with you as that. And I think I would like to kind of shout out, Kofi Coban on your team, because he is a very, even just physically built, he is a prototypical big man. It seems like back to the basket. He can shoot the ball from free if he wants to, but he's very dominant there. Can you talk a little bit about him and his development and what he brings to the team for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's a guy that was born 20 years late. I mean,
Right.
he would have been a top three draft pick in
Mm.
1996.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
um, but to answer your question, what he's brought to the team, and um, he's got personality as big as he is.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Hmm.
he's got a huge personality.
Hmm.
Um, he Even though he's still relatively young in terms of his professional experience,
Okay.
he's got a leadership quality about him
Hmm.
where, when he says something, guys listen.
Right. Right.
The success that he had on the college level, um, bringing an Illinois program
Okay. Yeah.
that had went in fits and spurts over many years, of great basketball and
Hmm.
then down basketball and then back up.
Yeah.
You're wearing that Sonics jersey. It makes me think of Kendall Gill from University of Illinois, who was a
Yes.
former Sonic, and
Hmm.
back when Illinois was good again in that previous era. But
Hmm.
Illinois was rose up when Kofi was there. I mean, they got a number one seed, I think, for the first time ever.
Right. Right.
So that experience is helpful, and playing in big time situations in arenas full of 30, 40,000 people.
Hmm.
Um, that experience, you just can't get it without doing it.
Hmm.
So he brings all of that, and then the ability to sort of shoulder the burden of his his uniqueness, I guess, his big personality, and he's one of those guys that could just go by. He could put Kofi on the back of his jersey, and people would know who he is. There's
Yes.
not a lot of people could go by one name.
First name basis. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I watch him playing, and like you said, when you speak about his personality, how emotional and energetic he was, in those two games, block was it him, I think, who blocked the last shot in the second game, to kind of just hold
That
on.
was Laddie. That was
It was
Tyrant.
it
That
was
was
La- it
Laddie.
was
That was
Turan.
the
Okay,
block
right.
shot.
Right, yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was Saran. Okay, yeah, but just the energy and everything that he played, it was really, really good to see. And I'll make it very, very very well known. I was not aware of who he was until I started to research, this interview. And he left a really big impact on me. And you're absolutely right. And it's something else, because when I think about him, another big man just recently, maybe in the last 10 years, I think of is a guy like Okafor. Coming from Duke, he was supposed to be the next big thing in the NBA, but because everyone went 3 points and five out, he became extinct in the league. And when I see someone like Kofi, using his skill, and I think the game of basketball just goes through these trends and phases. I think the big man will come back. Probably not in the same way as it was in the 90s, but guys being able to use their skill and their dominance. Why you think Embiid is such a good player as he is? He can shoot the free, but he can get in the basket and use his size. And I think this is what a lot of teams, international and NBA, are getting away from. Everyone wants to shoot the three or kind of do what the successful team is doing, but they're not using the advantages of their roster. You have big men, use them. You have someone like Kofi in the middle who could kind of deter, guys from coming in the paint and score. Use them, and I think you're doing a really good job at that. Well, at least for the first two games that I've seen, you've done a really good job with that, putting him in the right positions. And I hope, of course, it will continue as and he'll probably definitely be a major piece as the tournament moves on, as and you guys try to go on into World Cup World Cup
What I
games.
think would be interesting, to see, even if it was just for a game or for on a weekend or something,
Hmm.
because I think it would take some time to affect. But the 3-point line, the reason the 3-point line has become what it has become
Hmm.
is because it has such a major impact on the game.
Yes, of
It's
course.
not because people want to sit there and watch someone shoot it from just over mid-court.
Hmm.
There's really nothing exciting about that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it has a big impact on the game. If you just eliminated the 3-point line
Hmm.
and made everything twos like it used to be way back in the day,
Way
even
back.
way before me,
Hmm.
um, I think you'd see basketball played in a way that would become a little bit more of to steal the football phrase, the beautiful game,
Hmm.
that it was, where cutting and passing and
Yeah,
ball movement and player movement
absolutely.
would be a little, and being able to use guys with their back to the basket. And you don't have to be big. I mean, you're wearing the jersey of Hall of Fame player Gary Payton,
Hmm.
who was one of the great back to the basket
Point
guards in the
guards.
NBA back in the
That's
day.
it. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
You could post Gary Payton up and it was over
Hmm.
down there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because he could find mismatches all the time and he was so good with his feet
Yep.
but that part of the game, at least from an NBA standpoint, it's really not, it's just not there anymore. And the analytics say that it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
They're doing their thing and they're making a lot of money. And so who am I to criticize?
No,
But
you're right.
that, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and you're right. Yeah, it's like I was watching some video as I was preparing for the interview with Peter Vesey a couple of days ago, and he was speaking about Steph Curry, him being his favorite player, and he made reference to Steph Curry in his rookie year, and I watched some highlights of Steph playing then. And watching him now, it's two totally different players. He looked for mid-range shots. He tried to get into the zone. There was not this, just doing all of the step backs and just pulling up from free from the logo. This was a guy who was methodically trying to get into creases, elbow extended, trying to get in for floaters and everything. Whereas now you could know when a free is coming because he's kind of looking for it with his dribble. Whereas before, he would try to, move past and get to free throw line extended and shoot that shot. Gary Payton, like you said, one of the guys I used to really admire watching in the 90s as well. I think with the 3-point shots becoming so much more prevalent, footwork and everything just has kind of just has diluted, that type of the game, type of skill for the game. So even centers, there was a conversation in one of the podcasts I listened to where the guy said, I think it was Gilbert Arenas, he said, if and also IQ, that's something that seems to be diluting as well. Where, yeah, you have all the skill in the world, but if I tell you to run a play on the right side of the court, can you flip it and do it on the left side? There are guys who actually struggle with doing things on the other side of the court. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well, I was going to say the knock on Gary coming out of college at Oregon State was
hmm.
that he couldn't shoot.
Hmm.
And and to a certain extent that was kind of true for him as a rookie,
Hmm.
but he spent hours and hours, in the gym and getting his shot together.
Hmm.
But you just sort of wonder, how would he fit into today's game with all of those intangible qualities that you were just talking about?
Hmm.
Um, and obviously kind of the way the game has evolved, he would have been a different player
Hmm.
back then too. But it's just for me when I look at a guy like Gary, who I did get to spend a lot of time with and watch a lot,
Hmm.
um, to see how the game has sort of changed from his style to the style that it is now is just kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and this is why I really appreciate, guys in the league right now like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Cade Cunningham, slightly bigger guards, but still being able to use the mid-range shot and get to the basket. And Cade would post up and use his size, and they're becoming very good MVP type players because they're using those advantages, that other players are probably not doing and working on that in that sort of way. So I think, like I said, with the centers, I think that trend, it will probably come back. The 3-point shot will never be eliminated. People will take it. But I think, everyone's starting to realize, hey, I could have an advantage doing more of the old school stuff rather than just sticking on the outside. And I think we'll see it come back. Maybe basketball for us, as we can I kind of continue to watch it, will return to what we enjoyed back in those days. Not that we're old and out of touch, but
Yeah, I am at least.
we just want to see kind of very good complementary basketball in that sense. All right, so the next thing I'm going to touch on here, I know this is not what not the team that you coach. I know you mentioned you get into 3x3 basketball as well. But can you tell us a little bit about the women's side of the Jamaican national basketball team? What are they doing? And I think it's really important as a Caribbean audience, to also highlight, women in the game as well. You have someone like is Aaliyah Boston from the Bahamas in the WNBA doing big things. Forgive me, I'm not too sure about the Jamaican players, but like, what do you see from the women's side in Jamaica basketball, and what strides are they making as well from your vantage point?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking about that because it is important and it's important coming from the top. I just was on a Zoom call a week and a half ago
Hmm.
with the Minister of Sport in Jamaica,
Hmm.
Babsy Grange, and she emphasized uh, her desire for our women's program to be strong.
Right.
And it trickles down to Paulton Gordon, who's the president of Jamaica Basketball, who's committed to having a strong women's program.
As
I think
well.
one of the things that's sort of complicated is that I think that and I have been involved with the women's program a little
As
bit,
well.
and
Okay.
I'm in contact with O'Neill Brown, who's the women's head coach for
Okay.
both 5x5 and 3x3. Um, and so I'm very interested in us having a successful women's program. Um, but I think it's important for your most visible program to be healthy.
Mm,
And I think that's kind of like one of the things that we thought from a philosophical standpoint is if we can get our senior men's team healthy and on a good footing,
hmm.
then we can bring along the other programs within Java,
Right.
which includes our women's program and includes our youth program.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Partly because it we are the most visible one right
Yes. Yes.
now.
Hmm.
For better or worse, that's what it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when we're healthy, you know, our success can have a trickle down effect
Yes.
because it brings more eyes to us. It educates the population and our sponsors and
Hmm.
our fans about what our program is
Hmm.
and what we're trying to do to have a healthy program with our women and with our youth. So those are high priorities for us
Hmm.
and something that we hope to have all of those of that three-legged stool, all of those strong as we move forward.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, the trickle down effect. Because yeah, like you said, it's the bringing the excitement on the men's side just has everyone wanting to pitch in and wanting to kind of be part of it. I know for St. Lucia specifically, that's where I could speak from because that's where I was. Once basketball is alive and well on the men's side, everyone follows it, and then you have everyone. Maybe the girls, well, from in St. Lucia specifically, the girls kind of stick to netball mostly. But when the guys are good, everyone wants to see what they could do. So I think you're right. With all the eyes on Jamaica basketball at the moment, all of the potential future signings, if it's possible in that sort of way, and guys like Kofi holding down the fort at the moment, I think it brings that excitement and people wanting to kind of join in, their success and celebrate with them. But then you have the youngsters coming up being like, I want to be like them. They're
Mhm.
bringing that excitement and pride to the country. Of course, track seems to be what everyone is really excited about. It's such a big thing in Jamaica, and mostly I think all the kids are kind of moving towards track. But when you have, the investment, like people like yourselves coming from overseas, with all the experience that you have coming in and wanting to invest that time with a team, then you see the fruits of everything coming together, the big wins like you guys have had over the last couple of days, and then people being more invested and the kids following, and then the pipeline then opens up a little more. And that's what I hope for St. Lucia basketball as well. I know we're trying to do a very similar thing. We have, some of the NBA talents. We have guys like Terrence Mann, who plays in Brooklyn at the moment. Chris Boucher, who's in the Celtics, who's not playing as much, but he's an NBA talent guy. And we have, the pipeline of players. I could even mention there's a young man who's in Canada named Marion Henry. He's like a little child prodigy over there in Canada, 10 years old, and he has these drills that he does that just freaks everyone out, winning MVPs in all sorts of tournaments, playing, training with NBA coaches. He's met Steph Curry. Steph is really impressed with the skill he's shown so far. And, I think that's him, seeing, and being influenced and motivated by what he's seen by the older players doing. And once you have that strongly happening on island, you'll get to see more of that happening. So I definitely agree with you. And I hope on the women's side, like you say, that could actually happen. So I think it's definitely a good thing that you guys are trying to put that investment into that as well. Any major
Well, the good news, just not to interrupt you, but the good
Yeah.
news is that our women's team did get to compete in the Caribbean championships back in early November.
Okay.
And so they're back on the floor and
Nice.
they're doing their thing and hopefully as we move through 2026 and into 27, there's more opportunities for them to get together and show out for the country as well.
Awesome. And we're definitely gonna put our hands behind everyone. Definitely, we are, yes, we're all individual countries in the Caribbean, but we love to see the Caribbean do well. So whether it be Jamaica, men's or women's, we want to see, when when the Olympics is going on, my wife and I and everyone, within our family, we just wanted the Caribbean to win. We didn't really care what country it came from, or where the athletes came from. We just wanted the Caribbean to win. So we definitely, everyone, I think, will be rooting for you guys as you go along. I'll not want you all to win against St. Lucia, but definitely we want to see you guys.
Fair enough.
We definitely want to see
Fair
you guys do good. Any major sponsors or anything you'd like to probably shout out for supporting the team? That'd be really important. Of course, I'm sure the Ministry of Education or Sports or those governmental organizations, but any other sponsors that are really instrumental in what you're trying to do with Jamaica basketball?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to turn it into a commercial because that's kind of disingenuous. But I do need to say, with all sincerity, that 2 years ago, Cedella Marley got involved with our program.
Okay.
And if anyone isn't aware of the Reggae Girls and Cedella's influence and involvement in what she did to lift up women's football in Jamaica and the impact that it had by making the World Cup and growing women's soccer, women's football in the country. They understand the type of influence she has, and she got behind Jamaica basketball in 2024 through the Bob and Rita Marley Foundation.
Okay.
And none of any of the success that we've been able to enjoy and bring to the people of Jamaica and the Jamaica diaspora worldwide, or just basketball fans worldwide, would have been possible without Cedella. And it just cannot be, it cannot be overstated.
Awesome.
And I find myself, I really appreciate you asking me that question, because there's no way that I'm able to adequately show my appreciation. And it's also very difficult for people outside to understand what an influence she's been. Right. So, it all starts right there. The National Bakery Foundation came on board with us, just about 9 months ago. And their impact was greatly needed and felt. Rainforest products came on around the same time and has been very helpful for us. And we're talking with a lot of different sponsors now. I think because of Rainforest and National and the Bob and Rita Marley Foundation, they've kind of opened the door for other people to want to get involved in what we're doing.
Yes.
And so they were kind of almost the founders of this renaissance of Jamaica basketball. And we just encourage more people to get involved because, we've said this and I've been, preaching it for the last 5 years to anyone who would listen. The only thing holding us back was proper funding to be able to go out and compete in a way that was not only competitive,
on par,
but respectful to our players.
Agreed.
Not taking shortcuts, not treating our players in a way that was unbecoming of the professionalism that they've earned. I think maybe throughout various stages in Jamaica basketball in the past, I want to be careful about how I word it. Maybe the budget wasn't such that it expressed that the same way.
Yeah.
So we want to build a program that is respectful to our players, respectful to the game, and competitive at the highest level possible. And we can't do that without people like Cedella Marley. So so thanks for opening that door for me to say that. I appreciate it. And hopefully more people want to get involved with what we're doing. You mentioned that we're playing 2 home games, and you said that they're the first games since the hurricane. But I got to tell you, I think they're the first games of this level ever in the country's history. Not that there haven't been home games in the past, where Jamaica has hosted other countries, but I'm talking the consequences of the game and the impact of these 2 home games have never been bigger.
The stakes have never been higher.
Yeah. And bringing that to Jamaica, I think is really something special that I can't wait to share with hopefully a packed arena of close to 4,000 people cheering their lungs out for Team Jamaica, and hopefully we make them proud.
Absolutely. I think that, and I know you guys will be playing with, lots of pride, wanting to do good for the country. You've kind of laid down the blueprint of as to what it is. Of course, Bahamas is a different challenge, but being able to kind of take that winning momentum into these next games will be really important. And yeah, definitely I want to do it for you as well. Shout out to Cedella Marley and the Bob Rita Marley Foundation. I know when there was a press conference over the summer where the Thompson twins came in, they had a little bit of a conversation speaking about, their potential, for probably wanting to play for Jamaica, and the Bob and Rita Marley Foundation logo was prominent in the background, showing, how much they're invested in that. And I definitely want the rest of the countries of the Caribbean to take note of that. Investment is really key to getting to where you want to get to with these teams. And, we've seen it now with Julian Alfred as a sprinter in St. Lucia, doing what she's been doing, an Olympic champion. And now that she has the backing, she's just out there in the world winning medals and doing things. Once you start to invest in the youth and, the ones who show that potential, good things kind of come with that. And the last question I just want to ask, of course, so we've spoken about this next game against the Bahamas, February 26th in Kingston. Are there any other upcoming events and fundraisers or anything that you'd probably just want to just put out so people could be aware of? Or is the game the main thing at the moment? Anything else around the team that you want to put out there?
Yeah, well, our entire focus right now is these games coming up on February 26th against the Bahamas, and then March 1st against Team Canada at the Indoor Center in Kingston. And tickets will be available online shortly, probably next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Then we have another window of games in July 3rd and July 6th, where we return the game in Bahamas, and then we go to Canada. And then those 4 games are going to kind of determine where we're headed after that.
Okay.
If we're able to advance out of this round of qualifying, then we go again in August, we go again in November, and we go again in February of 2027 with home and home matches against 3 other teams that will determine whether we get to play in the 27 World Cup which would be such a cool experience.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And such a monumental achievement. Our 3x3 program, we want to continue to build on that. I think we've made really great strides both on the women's side and with our men. We've had such close calls with both teams where we've been right there but just haven't been able to push it over the top. I think we have a real opportunity to push it over the top in 2026.
Gotcha.
So yeah, just keep on our social pages and watch what we're doing and look out for us and get on board because it's been a fun ride this far, and we hope that it continues to be, and we want to take along as many people as we can.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Coach Rick Turner, here with us on Baseline to Baseline with Allison Orrin. I'm definitely going to say on behalf of Orrin as well, Orrin Buchanan, my co-host, it was a really, really good time to just get to know you a little bit, talk a little bit of hoops, and see what's next for Jamaica basketball. One last question for you. Of course, I have the Sonics jersey on. What do you think about the Oklahoma City Thunder and what they're doing? They're a team that's, won the championship last year. They're doing really well. They had a bit of a stumble the last 10 games or so. But what do you think about the OKC Thunder and what they're doing, considering you have roots to the historic roots with the Sonics and that organization?
Do you want my professional answer or do you want my honest personal answer? My honest personal answer is I grew up a Sonics fan.
Got you.
My first basketball game, my first professional basketball game was Sonics versus the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
When I think I was 9 or 10 years old.
Okay.
I went with my dad. We sat in the very last row of the arena.
Right.
And I was a Sonics fan
through and through.
Mad Sonics fan ever since.
Gotcha.
They won the NBA championship in 1979.
Lenny Wilkins and the crew.
And I can name the entire team for you. A dream came true for me when I graduated college and I was hired to work for the Sonics. It runs deep. It runs deep.
Fair enough.
And so when the Sonics were stolen from the city of Seattle, I vowed to never mention that team's name again. That you mentioned.
Got you.
And so that. I don't even acknowledge them as a team.
Got you. Okay, fair enough.
So that's not a professional answer.
And that's fine.
My professional answer is that
good for them.
Sam Presti's done an incredible job with them.
Yes.
What he's the roster that he's built and what they've done is unique and special, and they're fantastic to watch. I root against them every time.
Fair enough. And I know the guy whose jersey I'm wearing right now feels the same. I know that the Oklahoma City Thunder have come up to him and spoken about retiring his jersey there. And he's like, no, I didn't play for the Thunder. I played for the Sonics. So when you get a team back in Seattle, my jersey will be retired there. So, I know he's definitely on the same page with you where that's concerned. Of course, he's loving the game right now, as everyone is. Some amazing talent on that team and elsewhere throughout the league and the world and the Caribbean. And we'll continue to watch it and everything. Coach Rick Turner, thank you very much again. Really appreciate your time, and we'll definitely catch up. I will be keeping my eyes on Jamaica, and I look forward to see what the guys are doing and which players might or might not be joining the team in the near future. All right, thank you.
I enjoyed it very much, and I'm at your disposal anytime you want.
Awesome, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
From the hardwood floor to the spotlight glow, breaking down the stats every fan should know. Trace, place, legends in the making, every headline, no mistaking. Fast breaks, crossovers, highlight reels. What's real strategy, what's hype and feels. East to west, we call it straight from draft night buzz to finals fade. Baseline to baseline, we cover it all. Big plays, bold takes, the rise and the fall. Baseline to baseline, where passion is bright.